we briefly created a small shelter during the Action Aid days for homeless women. And I always recall a conversation where we had 40 odd women from the streets. And I was talking to them about what has changed most in your life as a result of having a shelter. And they thought a lot, and they said, for the first time in 17 years or 18 years, when we close our eyes at night, we are assured that we will be able to sleep unmolested for 8 hours. And you know, that one line told me what life must be for a homeless woman. I work with homeless women's children, you know, a lot of them, and I realize today that most of them are children of rape. Because a woman who's homeless on the streets cannot protect herself. Rape is an everyday occurrence. And very often, therefore, these women pick up homeless male partners and they move from one to the other. And these male partners are usually, very often, extremely violent with them. But there's a preference to the violence of one man to being, you know, somehow in our society, even on the streets, if you have a male partner, then people will not harm you in the same way. So the violence of one man is preferable to the violence of random multiple men. And so they go through these, and it is out of those relationships that we see these children coming out. So I would say that a lot of the mental health problems that we see on the streets, the large majority of it is the outcome of the conditions of homelessness. And the story that I started off with, and it only confirms to me that it is hard to address mental health problems of homeless people without addressing the conditions of their life. And that is what makes it such an extraordinary challenge. These 10 years, we have you know, people who have worked. I have a young friend here, Tarek, who I love a lot because of the compassion that he has for homeless people. And he gathers a group of his friends every night on cold winter nights, and they go around trying to find, you know, they find homeless people and they try to cover them up with a blanket or with a plastic sheet. The plastic sheets are better because they're almost disposable. You know, you have those, what are those? The bubble sheets. Because also a homeless person has no place to store that blanket. We might accuse that person of selling it or whatever, but where is he going to keep it in the course of the day? And therefore the entrepreneurs understood that. That's why they have this hiring out every night. If we could have done it in a different kind of way. We have Ashday, which is running this camp with IPAS for the last 10 years. We have some shelters that are run. But it seems to me that we have been collectively profoundly failing in altering the life of even a few hundred homeless people with all our collective energy. And therefore, I had proposed, and I just talk about, on the one hand, you know, set of interventions that I propose that we undertake, and I made the proposal here in Chennai as well, that we undertake an intensive work, but just, I think I've taken a little long, but to just highlight that it will have to be have to have many facets if you have to deal with the life situation of homeless people. So I'll just briefly say what I propose as community action and what I propose as national policy, and we can perhaps move on from there. This Caring Homeless Collective, I mean, what we felt was that if we could have groups of people, firstly, who, young people like Tariq who have the capacity to outreach and meet and befriend and win the trust of homeless people. That we we need to start with a group the most important work is actually the outreach work, the community contact work, which has to be sustained over many months, over many years. People need to recognize you in the homeless community environment and to trust you, because they haven't learned to trust people. Once you do that, you'll start recognizing the specific challenges and problems of different homeless people. And you have to help them also think through solutions. Like a homeless woman who's living through this life, you might feel all I have to do is to walk in and say, we've created a shelter, come, let's go. And the woman will be terrified. In fact, some friends try to do that. I mean, she's lived homeless for 17, 20 years. She's built a whole support system, a system of a way of life. How can she just? She has friends. She has people she can trust within this framework. How can she suddenly just be expected to walk away into some strange environment? So the community contact work is the first that is important. We need to have a whole range of specialized shelters. Very briefly, for children, let me say, for children I think it's non-negotiable. You have to have comprehensive care of all kinds. Because there is a debate, there are organizations which say that children have agency, therefore you should have night shelters and allow them to continue and make choices. I find that very unacceptable. Would you make that choice for your own child? And children need protection, but they need, these street children especially require to be negotiated. You have to win their trust. The doors have to be always open, but you have to provide them the alternatives of comprehensive care, life for their entire childhood. And that's one work that I most directly engaged in relation to the homeless, and after 4 or 5 years I've seen how these children completely blossom and transform, get into regular schools, leave behind their abuse, and are making me very proud in many ways. So that's one. So let's leave aside the children. For that category of working single men, we need housing. One other disclaimer, of course we need affordable housing as the long-term solution, but I'm assuming that is somewhere further down the line. So in the absence of that, we at least need dignified shelters which are like working men's hostels, where, and they're willing to, pay 10 rupees, 15 rupees, where they should be able to walk in like into a lodge. You have a place you can store your stuff, you can come in, it becomes a home for you. It's just a shared home, but it's a home for you. And you can have a series of services. The locker is extremely important because that's some place you can store your savings and so on. It gives you a sense of belonging. You need a post office address where you can get letters and send letters. Receiving letters is impossible for a homeless person, so that becomes very valuable. You have a collective way of celebrating festivals, providing mutual support, providing livelihood support, providing some legal aid if they're being exploited at work. But it's and community kitchens which provide them affordable food. So that's pretty straightforward, and the largest numbers you require that. We have able-bodied men who have severe drug problems, and again we found that